Hey everyone, welcome to the LinkedIn Live. Today we have McKenzie with us. She's a senior director of partner management at Bombora, where she helps drive revenue growth and innovation through strategic partnerships. With expertise in account expansion, channel partnerships, and customer success, she excels at spotting and creating opportunities, fostering loyalty, and aligning teams to deliver measurable results. So McKinsey is passionate about connecting people, building trust, turning strategic ideas into business impact. Welcome, McKenzie. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, happy to be here today. Appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Let's dig into it. So, can you share your career journey? Like, what led you to partner management at Bombora? What are the experiences, right, which shaped your approach to account expansion and GTM strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. After I graduated college, to take you way back to the beginning, I started my career in sales in the CPG space, so consumer packaged goods, so not related to the tech industry. And then made my way into more of an account management role, more in the tech space. And then when I joined Bombora, I actually started as a customer success manager. So I've seen a lot of the different facets of how our customers leverage our data, right? So I was post sale, getting to support our customers very in the weeds, boots on the ground situation, which I really loved. And then as I grew in my career at Bombora, the partner team, I got to interact with a lot because a lot of our customers, especially in the small, medium business segment, leverage our data in partners, of course, Sprouts being one of them, which is why I get to speak today. So thank you all for being a valued partner. And I really fell in love with the ability for especially a lot of teams who are more nimble and more agile, being able to leverage data that maybe they wouldn't be able to on their own in a platform like Sprouts, right? So in our partner platforms, where when you typically give smaller teams who maybe don't have a high head count a raw feed of data, they don't necessarily know what to do with it, right? And I'm sure we'll get a lot more into that today during our conversation. But seeing as a customer success manager, these teams who had a raw data feed and not necessarily a great place to activate that, they were unsure what to do with data. Not that it wasn't great, they didn't see value in it, they just didn't know, what should I do next, how should I instill trust in my sales team and my marketing team and my customer success team in the data that you're giving me. So seeing that holistic vision and really understanding the need for there to be alignment across your entire organization, from ops to marketing to sales, all the way up to leadership, right? To your CFO, who's probably at the end of the day signing the checks at your organization in whatever fashion that looks like for you. And then as far as account expansion looks like, right? So not only coming originally from the sales side, but then seeing what post sale, after a sale actually looks like, right? But actually implementing the data at Bombora, how can we make that successful? So not just upselling people at any chance we get, but where can we ensure that the data that we're selling is actually going to be implemented in a successful way and utilized by teams to get them to that end goal that they're looking for.
Sure. No, that makes a ton of sense. What are some of the data gaps you see, right, which interfere with GTM execution, right? Like, so yeah, I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as gaps, I think not only just in data, but I would start probably with team alignment, right? So when you think about a product that a company buys, no matter if it's data or if it's a platform that contains data or houses data, it starts with one, single probably team or one champion at the end of the day, right? Or maybe two champions. So starting with team alignment, I think is really important, right? And then beyond that, defining what alignment actually looks like. So for example, obviously Bombora is a marketing technology tool, right? So usually our data is used between like a data science team, a marketing team, a sales team, or an ops team, which not every company that purchases Bombora has all of those teams, but between one of those four are going to be the people using our data. So ensuring that you have defined even what success looks like for data, what an SAL is, what an MQL is, what your ICP is, things like that are so important. And by no means, does it have to be, okay, we defined what our ICP was in 2022 and that will never change.
Right.
But it's always a moving target, right? It's been a moving target at Bombora, just like it is at every company. It's changed since I started here. But determining what those actually look like and aligning that across teams. And then, okay, how can the tools that we actually buy support those definitions that we've created? But first starting with that foundation. And then as far as I would say gaps, keeping data siloed. So if there's no one single source of truth, and then beyond that, is your single source of truth so dirty or so kind of mucked up that no one can leverage it properly, right? So we all know a lot of CRMs tend to be kind of gunky, for lack of a better word. There's old contact data. We're going through a similar exercise right now at Bombora where, we just have a ton of outdated contacts. They just don't work at the company anymore. By nature of who we sell to, tech companies, there's a ton of movement. We've all seen in the last couple of years, execs leave. Unfortunately, there's been a ton of layoffs in tech. So, that also obviously has an effect on our contact data and things like that. So ensuring there's alignment between teams, that whatever your source of truth is as clean as possible. And then also that there's ownership at the end of the day. So whoever that is, right, whether that's the original champion and buyer, whether whoever bought it decides, okay, yes, I was the champion for this tool, but maybe it's a better sits with our head of, rev ops or our head of sales ops or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
But making sure someone owns it.
McKenzie, we should talk because what you mentioned in terms of CRM data being dirty, right, stale, that is one of the big problems we are solving. So at Sprouts, right, like champions tracking, like champions changing jobs, all of the things you mentioned.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So, right, like, so you talked about these things from your expertise and Bombora's perspective, right? What would be a non-negotiable GTM data clarity framework include? Right, like we're actually doing this exercise. We were talking to people about what would that data framework look like, right? And who should be accountable for keeping it robust and healthy?
Yeah. So I think to kind of double down on my previous point, I would say first and foremost, aligning on definitions. So I'll use us as an example. So obviously we have a data science team because we sell data, and a lot of companies our size probably don't have a data science team, which is fine. So I always, when I was a CSM and even today, I caveat this with you don't have to have a full data science team to have an account scoring or a lead scoring model. That's why we have partnerships like you all. So in this example, I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I will say first and foremost to define again just your terminology, right? Because when you think about maybe your VP of sales or whoever your head of sales is, your head of marketing, when you say ICP, that may mean two different things to them, or even lead or MQL. That may mean two different things to them, or what actions even like your SDR team or your BDR team should be taking. That may look very different to your rev ops team and your sales team at the end of the day. So first and foremost, go to market, right, encompasses such a wide variety of folks on any team. So ensuring that roles are defined, expectations are defined, and then your terminology is defined, I would say is the first, right? So if you think about crawl, walk, run, that kind of a overused term, but it's an easy one, right? So that's kind of the crawl phase. And then walk would be determining how you want to account score or lead score, right? So obviously I'm biased because I do work at Bombora and we obviously sell intent, but I will say I don't know how sales or marketing people do it without some sort of directional focus on how they should go after their accounts, right? Because if you think about your addressable market, for most companies, it's very, very large. So, how do you know where to start? We all know budgets are very strapped, right? So, if you think about the walk phase, defining what metrics you actually want to use. So, whether that's install data, whether that's further firmographic data, do they have an obvious office in Canada, and that's really important to you all. Do they whatever that may look like. And then do they have intent? That's great. Have they engaged in your website? Do you have a web de-anonymization tool that can tell you that? If not, that may not be something that you should include unless you're looking to, make that investment in that technology. Have they, engaged with marketing outreach or not? Defining what you actually want to utilize in account scoring and lead scoring. And then, of course, defining that, again, that source of truth. So whether that's your CRM, whether that's like a marketing automation platform, if this is more of a marketing focused initiative, whatever that looks like for you all. And then the run portion, right? So actually getting teams to use it, and then beyond that, getting that buy-in. So if you go back to the whole dirty data problem, right? If you have really dirty data, and you're just feeding leads to, let's say a RevOps person owns this, to marketing, and they're marketing at all these leads, and it's a really low click-through rate or really low conversion. There's low website traffic, people aren't filling out forms. Obviously that team's going to think, okay, this model that was built is trash. And then if those get passed to sales, maybe they think, okay, these leads are terrible, this is marketing's fault, and it just goes down the line from there. So in that run phase, ensuring that you can have as clean of data as possible and that everyone's aligned. And obviously, much easier said than done, right? Or else every company would be running perfectly. But starting, I think, at those foundational steps is the most important thing you can do. And then as far as who should run it, I think, it obviously depends pretty widely across companies. Who do you actually have on staff? But someone who is pretty well versed in, I think, your systems, right? So whether that's like a head of RevOps, if you have someone, who's in data governance, whatever that may look like at your organization, but ensuring that they have the bandwidth, I think is probably one of the most important aspects, because it is a big undertaking. And like we mentioned earlier, it is very much a moving target. So it's not something that you can just set and forget for the rest of time. It's something that they'll have to reevaluate and want to re-bring up at exec meetings, or if they're not on exec board meetings, or exec check-ins, and ensure that there's still buy-in from the appropriate people.
Right, right. And McKenzie, that's pretty comprehensive question, right? When you talked about them being directionless sometimes, were you referring to like a good handle on ideal customer profile and saying it needs to be well established between sales and marketing teams, DevOps teams? Uh, was I getting that right? Like,
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
okay,
Yeah. So I'm sure you all have talked to people before who, if you talk to one leader, like during a sales cycle, for example, you'll talk to one leader and they'll say, okay, we sell to anyone in the in EMEA or North America, upwards of 500 employees. Then you talk to marketing, they're like, oh, well, we only want to market to anyone in EMEA upwards of 500 employees. So, if that's not quite aligned, then if they're trying to build a model, we want to ensure, of course, that we have that base level alignment prior to, starting any larger undertaking, such as building an account scoring model.
great. And just double clicking on that. So ICP is a big problem, right? Everyone talks about it. Yet when we talk to like industry leaders, a lot of times we just get very different answers. One, we don't see like any established product in the category. And like according to you, when people are defining ICPs, right? And the bigger the company, the more hairy it gets because you might have multiple ICPs, right? I have multiple products, I have like different geos, different industries I'm targeting, right? And so one size does not fit all. So what are some of the ingredients or some of the metrics you would think, like we say you should look at tech stack, hiring signals, all the events which are critical to you. Like, if you're a fintech company, have they had an M&A? If you're a cybersecurity company, have you had a breach? Like all those intelligence signals, right? And use all of that to dynamically assess the ICP fitment, right? Any thoughts on what you think are some of the key things people should include in ICP?
Yeah. So something that we look at for ourselves is obviously opportunity data within our CRM, right? And again, it does depend on how clean your CRM is, and of course, how long you've been in business and how many sales you've had. If your product has changed, or if your entire go-to-market strategy has changed. So I would say, excuse me, looking at opportunity data obviously is really important. And then beyond that, at Bombora specifically, again, we have a data science team, so we're a little bit unique in this. But for anyone who's watching, who has a data science team or who is interested in intent and historical data, we run what's called a look back analysis. So we do this for a lot of our direct customers, but we look at their close won opportunity data, and then we look at intent over time. So whether that's like the last 12 months, the last 18 months, et cetera, and we determine where intent existed essentially before they were a closed won opportunity with you. And what I think is really illuminating for people, and when you think about ICP, right, is sometimes you'll see, even though it was a closed won opportunity, there wasn't much intent. And
Right.
I'm not saying that, we are going to pick up 100% of every single intent signal or spike that occurs at an account. Of course, no one can. But if you see these larger trends where, let's say, in this sort of overarching category, you just don't really see much intent. Not that it's a fluke, but it may just not be, a ton of demand in that specific industry right now for your exact product, right?
Right.
And beyond that, you can also look at that overarching trend just in the market for that industry, company size, geo, et cetera, with intent. And I think, you can also look at that with like your website engagement, right? With like your general marketing engagement. If you were to verticalize and, let's say, run like A/B tests with the same content or similar targeted content, and you're getting a ton of hits from certain industries, and you're seeing a ton of success there, and you're not seeing a lot of success from another industry where maybe you have had like one or two sales or a couple sales or things like that, but you just aren't really like striking gold, so to speak. There's a bunch of different ways obviously you could look at this. Why not double down where you are seeing that success? So obviously, defining ICP is like you mentioned, an extreme challenge, and by no means am I an expert on every single person's company watching here by any stretch of the imagination. But I think looking at all of those holistically can really help you, right? So is there intent in the market? Are they engaging with your marketing content? Are they visiting your website? Maybe you had a couple sales there, but you haven't seen much engagement in a really long time. Or maybe your BDR is getting like a little bit of engagement. Maybe they're already getting a meeting or two, but they just keep falling flat. But in another vertical, you are getting that continued engagement, continued interest. That all of those holistically could be a good sign for you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying look at your website traffic, look at the industries, look at your close won accounts, look at your different success parameters on close won accounts, in website traffic, right? Map it up with intent. And intent also, sometimes we hear them saying, hey, this was showing intent, but when we call them, they were not ready. And our thing is, look, it's one of those signals, which is like, it's an indicative signal. It's none of these signals are
Totally.
deterministic, right? Like you said, I think what you gave as an example was really good, which is like, see the overall trends on a particular industry or whatever variable you're interested in to see, I want to focus on this or not. Intent could be really powerful there, right? And then obviously you can reach out to people and start doing the experiments to see where it's working or not, right? So no, this is super helpful. Moving on, we can see, so like, we can't have a discussion today without talking about AI, right? Like AI is going to take over the world. It's already automating a lot of different industries. Vibe coding is a major FOMO creator for startups and founders and all companies today. So in GTM, right? You guys are one of the leading intent tools. So, how do you see the role of AI in GTM and data practices without actually creating more data and creating a dirty data, accentuating that problem? How do you see AI playing a constructive role in GTM and data?
Yeah, I think so. I talked about this a little bit with some of your former questions, but every model, no matter what it is, right? And I think this goes for anyone who uses AI, period, right? Like if I look up a question in Gemini, ChatGPT, doesn't matter what it is, all of those are only as good as the data you feed it with, right? And this goes exactly for your account models, your lead scoring, no matter what information you are giving to your teams to leverage to help your company go to market. Same thing goes, right, with leveraging AI plus whatever other data you all are using at your company. So it's kind of like the garbage in, garbage out, problem, so to speak. So AI is a piece of most people's, I would say, workflow nowadays, and if not, it's becoming more and more so. So AI definitely has a place, right? So whether it's used to help cleanse some of your data, whether it's helped used to automate some of your processes, help your workforce increase their productivity, whatever that looks like for you, to uh, append domains, whatever, enrich data, whatever that looks like. It definitely has a place, but I think understanding that no data set, no matter what it is, AI or otherwise, is going to be perfect. So it's still, you still need to double check it first and foremost. I definitely have, asked certain things and I'm like, that seems a little funky. And I've double checked and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why it was, 3/4 right or whatever that may look like. So I think first and foremost, right, you have to go with cleansing your data pipes, so to speak. So ensuring that the root of your data is clean. So whatever, again, to go back to your source of truth, if it's your CRM, a data lake, whatever that looks like, a platform, right? If it's a Sprouts, for example, whatever you want to use as your source of truth, first and foremost, you're starting with a clean area that you're pumping everything into. Second, use it. You can definitely use AI, like I mentioned, to automate and make a lot of things much easier for you, much quicker, as a supplement to your human workforce. Absolutely. And then also, right, adding in all of your other data sources. So whether that's intent, right, Bombora intent, whether that's website engagement, whether that's email open rate, click through rate on your ads, maybe form fills on your website, people reading blog posts, whatever that may look like, people attending webinars, event data, right? Like people actually like boots on the ground at a conference, whatever that looks like for you. And then taking all of that and using AI as a supplement, but just ensuring that at the root you have clean data and that you have also, I would say, a way to marry that data too is so important, right? A big problem I see also is to go back to like the boots on the ground example. We'll sponsor an event. They'll give us, attendee information, and you get just like the company name, and let's say like the titles of people general, right? Like VP of marketing will be there. Unfortunately, a lot of that is people hand typing in, right? So you may say, okay, I'm coming from Sprouts.ai. Your colleague may say, I'm coming from Sprouts. Your other colleague may have accidentally forgot the S, so they're coming from Sprout. So all of that information, that's what we're getting. And if you threw that into AI, they may think those are three different companies. Whereas me as a human, I know, okay, highly likely because we're all going to the same conference, it's probably the same company, because the likelihood of, there being three people right in a row from three different companies that are so similar is probably not that high. So, just kind of double checking in that way, but using it as a supplement.
Yeah, no, you're hitting a lot of very interesting points. We actually at Sprouts faced that challenge as well, and so we decided to solve it, which is like if we have like just company names and people names or titles, we can enrich that and give you the most likely person attending with their email IDs, and also that you can reach out to them, right? And yeah, and then if you layer that with ICP, you start getting really interesting data on saying these are the attendees, this is enriched, out of these 20% are your high ICP folks who you should probably try and get a meeting with, right? So interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. McKinsey, one more thing, like when you're doing this partner management, what are your top three KPIs which you look at in terms of defining success?
Yeah. So our partner program, excuse me, is relatively unique because a lot of our, I would say the vast majority of our partners, because we are a data source, we're built into their platform. So whereas a lot of partner programs, it's maybe two, platforms partnering, but since we're a data source, obviously we're natively integrated. So I would say a huge one for us is enabling the partner, right? Because intent isn't always the easiest to understand. So I would say first and foremost, kind of like the question you asked around defining go-to-market clarity for ourselves, ensuring that the partner team, sales reps, marketing, whatever that may look like, understands that we're a part of now, their go-to-market strategy. So enablement there is a huge, I would say, indication of success or ensuring our success. Second, I would say would be co-marketing initiatives. So things like this, right? So just ensuring that the market is aware that they can leverage Bombora intent directly in partner platforms is another huge one. And then third, of course, is revenue, right? So how can we ensure that not only you all are seeing revenue as a partner and valuing the partnership and making sure that you understand, okay, or see, I should say, not understand. Bombora is a valuable, part of our platform, and we want to continue to have intent in our platform, and we see it as a competitive edge for us, but also that we know how to communicate this to the market, and that we see this as a value add to our platform and not just as a nice to have or something that overcomplicates our tool.
Right. Sure. No, that makes a ton of sense. We are almost on time. McKenzie, last question on hiring, right? Like, if you were hiring, like, or people who are like early in their careers, what would be some advice you'll give them in terms of like what skills you're looking for if they want to be in MarTech, not just partnership management, like MarTech in general? How should they think about it today?
Yeah. I would say so. Two things. One, this is something I tell to everyone, not just people that want to be in Martech, but be enjoyable to be around. In a world I think where people are really nervous of AI, right? Taking their jobs, whatever that may be. People, they buy from people, right? So, and the same thing goes with hiring. People hire people that they want to be around, that they think would be a good culture fit, a good company fit. So, no matter I think what industry or what role you want to be in, be a team player, be enjoyable to be around, which is obviously a soft skill, not necessarily a hard skill, but specifically for MarTech, I think diversifying your skill set. So I have a math degree. You use math in everyday life, but I don't directly use it. However, I obviously, as I mentioned, I came from customer success. Now I'm in partner management, but I have, taken it upon myself to learn more Excel skills, to get with my RevOps team to understand how we actually, feed our account scoring model, to meet with my data science team to understand the data science behind our account scoring model, to understand, our source of truth, things like that. So I can speak to things like this. So I think coming in with a diversified skill set portfolio will make you that much stronger of a candidate.
And okay, so basically you're saying wherever you are, get involved, work cross-functionally, get
Absolutely.
get that diversified skill set, and make yourself more like you a Swiss knife kind of thing, which is like, hey, I can be handy in different roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as a young person coming into the workforce, you may think, okay, I have a marketing degree, I love marketing, but then you may determine, actually, I love RevOps, or I love IT, or I love data science. Things change. So understanding other people's roles can only benefit you,
Yeah,
and knowing what you like.
no, that's such great advice because as founders also, right? Like the first rule is be roll up your sleeves and be ready to do whatever needs to be done, right? And when you start getting that breadth of skill set, when you go deep as well, you can ask the right questions from different teams to go deep. And I think, yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you so much for that. Great. We are on time.
Absolutely.
Lovely chatting with you, Mackenzie, and look forward to being in touch.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Take care.
Thanks.